this section, we're going to talk about application equipment and methods. While many of the decisions related to your work are made by the site manager, you hold the responsibility for understanding those decisions and putting them into action by following through as directed, and knowing when something is wrong and correcting it. For each application, the site manager determines the correct tons per acre or gallons per acre. Proper manure application means that the nutrients supplied by the manure meet but do not exceed the nutrient demands of the crop. The site manager works with the producer to determine the nutrient needs of the crop, the nutrient supply of the manure, and the nutrient availability of the crop. They will then calculate the manure application rate. It is the applicator's responsibility to apply at that rate. So here's what you need to know. The application rate in gallons or tons per acre, the application equipment width, and the ground speed needed by the application equipment. In other words, it's up to you to know your equipment so that once you are told the application rate in gallons per acre or tons per acre, you know the size of your boom and your rate of flow, then factor that into your application speed that you will drive. We just talked about some of the factors the site manager considers in making decisions about each application. This is called developing a manure management plan, or MMP. It is your job to translate those directions into how you do your work. This includes how many gallons or tons to apply to each acre and the information you monitor on the valves of your equipment. Your site manager may provide you with something similar to this application rate reference table. Also, at some point, you may be asked to take manure samples for analysis, which provides valuable information about the nutrient content of the manure. Here are some key points you need to know if you're working with a liquid hose drag system. This type of system can either surface apply manure or incorporate it into the soil. The hose system transfers manure from the manure pit by pumping it through the hose and applying it in the field with the tractor. Be familiar with the system you are using, including all its parts and monitoring features. You need to monitor the controls carefully. Watch the flow rate, which shows the gallons of liquid flowing through the meter on the application bar. Look for any deviation or variation in the output you expect to see, because that could be telling you of a break, leak, or incident. Your speedometer or GPS display shows your ground speed as miles per hour, which should stay as constant as possible. Consistency of the flow and speed is key. At some point, you may use a liquid tanker to apply manure. This method provides another way to surface apply or incorporate. A unique option of the liquid tanker is that the manure can be transferred, carried, or hauled on the road, farther away from the manure pit. It is driven directly onto the field for application by the tractor. The application system and controls are the same for the liquid tanker as the liquid hose drag system. Both are within the tractor cab up front. The key is to monitor the flow meter and speedometer for any variation. Again, consistency is the key. Finally, solid spreaders are used for poultry manure and sometimes livestock manure that is mixed with bedding. Solid spreaders can only surface apply manure, but it can be incorporated later with tillage equipment. The application rate for solid spreaders is calculated in tons per acre. The application rate is determined by your tractor speed, equipment components, and density of manure. The equipment components of a solid spreader that affect the application rate are width of the equipment, apron spreader bar, similar to an old-fashioned grocery store belt, size and speed of the beater bars, the restrictor gate and scale, all which depend upon the density of the manure. The adjustments made on your equipment will adjust the application rate. Width will depend on the spreader type, such as a side slinger or back beater bars. The width of the application can range from a set distance of 15 feet all the way to 45 feet. Apron spreader bar, which is the bottom of the manure spreader, powered to move manure from the front to the back of the spreader for application. This speed can be adjusted. Size and speed of the beater bars in the back of the spreader. This equipment looks like a large cookie dough mixer, so that when the solid manure hits the beater bars, it flings the desired distance. Monitor the controls that show the speed of the beater bars to make sure application rate is consistent. Restrictor gate and scale. The restrictor gate funnels from the apron spreader bar to the beater bars or side slinger, allowing only controlled volume or weight of manure to get through to meet the desired application rate. This restriction volume is monitored and or varied by a scale that measures the weight in tons of manure left in the spreader. Density of manure. Restrictor gate compensates for the variation in the manure density. Stored liquid manure separates into layers of solids and liquids. Agitation or mixing the manure breaks up the crust, brings solids that have settled to the bottom into suspension, and distributes the nutrients uniformly throughout the manure. Liquid manure should be agitated before it is pumped out and hauled to the field for application. Agitation should continue throughout the pump out process. The farmer and your company have spent many years crafting a manure management plan and a crop rotation for each field. As the applicator, you're the only one who can carry out that plan in a correct way. It is up to you to use the appropriate method and application rate and to watch your control panel, GPS, flow meter, etc., to continually monitor that application equipment is doing what you want it to do. The spreader must be calibrated correctly and the applicator must avoid excessive overlap from one pass to the next. As you have already learned, you can prevent over-applying nitrogen and phosphorus by knowing the right amount for the right location. That knowledge, plus recognizing environmentally sensitive features and the required setbacks, will help you apply manure the right way. You will decide whether to incorporate, surface apply, possibly return later to incorporate, or even reject based on changing conditions. In review, 3 types of equipment are used to apply manure to the ground: liquid hose drag, liquid spreader, and solid spreader. The methods used include surface broadcast or incorporation. Choosing a method can be determined by the equipment that is available or the conditions of the manure. A method can also be chosen by the need for environmental setbacks and temperature requirements. For instance, if the ground is frozen, you'll be surface applying or broadcasting. If there are environmentally sensitive areas, you will need to incorporate. As we just discussed, there are some differences and similarities between the application methods and techniques of liquid spreading, solid spreading, and liquid hose drag. Each of these different methods are used with the same goal: a uniform, consistent manure and nutrient application to the field. The control panel shows miles per hour and application rate. This information can be summed up on a GPS unit or in a combination of controls available in the tractor cab. Monitoring these numbers and watching for big changes will help you be confident that your application rate is going as planned. As we said before, you hold the responsibility for knowing your equipment and maintaining it as needed. That means before you begin work, walk around the tractor and other equipment for a brief inspection to make sure all the signage is clean, all the lights are working, and the tires are good. Watch for wear and know when parts should be replaced. As you're driving, make sure everything is operating correctly and the meters show what you expect to see. If you're using a liquid hose drag, walk or drive an ATV to inspect every inch of the hose. The site manager may be responsible for maintenance and part replacement, but you're responsible for knowing the equipment you use and flagging problems for your site manager to address. We just reviewed different types of equipment and several application factors. You need to work with your site manager and be very familiar and comfortable with all these variables so that when the tractor is rolling and you are working long days, you are confident with your equipment. Once you're familiar with a CAWT manure operation and its equipment, this information may seem like second nature. We want to make sure you understand the importance of understanding your MMP and how to use your equipment in ways that applies manure in a consistent manner. Becoming comfortable with the equipment and application methods will also help you apply safely for yourself and the environment. In the next modules, you'll learn more about safety and how to respond to an emergency.